Hey everybody, this is Brad from Johnson Small Engines. We have a Ariens ST 824 snow thrower that I will be showing you how I take the carburetor off. It's an 8 horsepower Tecumseh motor, and I know a lot of people out there like to try to rebuild these things on their own, so this is some information to get the carburetor off the machine for you. I'm going to show you the tools that we use here from left to right. We have Phillips head screwdriver. I have this wrench here because I actually use this wrench on the Phillips head screwdriver. I actually have a wrench spot I can put a wrench on these, and it's really hard to get some of these Phillips screws off of the front cover on these sometimes without stripping them. I have used this. This is my special tool I've made. This came from a impact driver set. This bit right here came from here, an impact driver set that I used, and I put it into a socket, and I use this on 1/4 inch drive. I use it on my, I use an electric ratchet because I was born with the one hand, so I use the electric ratchet. It helps me out a lot, keeps my right hand from getting so cramped up. But that is a great tool that I made. I think you can buy these bits online and just get yourself, I think this is a 5/16 or an 8mm socket, 1/4 inch drive, and I put a piece of not cardboard, I put a paper towel piece in there to keep this from coming out so it doesn't fall out every time you use it. We're going to use all 1/4 inch drives today, 1/4 inch ratchet for all you guys out there using the ratchets, a couple extensions, 1/2 inch drive, 1/4 inch, 7/16, 3/8, and I'm pretty sure we need 5/16. You may need a 1/4 inch driver or just a pair of pliers for getting the fuel line off. I am going to be using, this is what I use to help me. I can't hold a punch and a hammer, so this is my holding. But we're going to need, I take the muffler off, and the mufflers have little, they have little brackets on them that you have to peel away, and this is how we do it, just to get the 1/2 inch bolts out of the muffler. I like taking the muffler off. You guys don't have to take the muffler off, but I use this mechanism right here to keep this tool so I can actually hold, I can kind of put pressure on it and use it. Going to need a hammer for that when we take that off. Pair of needle nose I always have in handy. Pair of vice grips. If you don't have a fuel shutoff on the gas tank, you can use a pair of needle nose vice grips to clamp them. Or however, they have really nice. They have a really nice tool that you can use for fuel line. It doesn't make the teeth marks that vice grips do, but most of the time I can get away with using vice grips. Like I said, the hammer we need. Now, this is my special tool I've been telling everybody about. It's just a plastic clip remover, and I use this to take the fuel line off the carburetor because it gets in there, and it does make it's a nice tool to use for taking fuel line off. So we're going to use that, and then my 1/4 inch ratchet. All right, so around to the front of the machine we go. We're going to start by, I'm going to use my Phillips head special tool here and take the front off. I'm actually going to bring, these are the two I was talking about. These can actually get stripped out right here. Right, these guys can get stripped out. Now, you can use the 1/4 inch ratchet. I'm going to use the bigger the Phillips head that sits in, and as long as it sits in nice and snug in there, you can just kind of turn it counterclockwise, and away it comes off. So get these guys going. Now, I do have to, I'm going to bring some more tools over here. You can notice on top of the motor, there's a couple 1/2 inch bolts up there that have to come off. And that's just something that's a little bit of a plus that we don't really like to get into, but we have to on this one as far as getting it apart. So we're going to take this bar off the top. All right, which is these guys here. Now they should be 1/2 inch, and I'm going to use an extension, the 1/2 inch socket to try to get this off. Now it looks like they have spacers under there, so be careful you don't lose anything. Now this one, it's just an odd one out. A lot of these don't have this bar here, so you don't have to worry about this on a lot of snow throwers. But we're just gonna move this off to the side because I'm gonna take these spacers out of here. There's a muffler bolt right back here that holds the muffler to the engine. I'm not sure if you can see that or not. It's right here. Can you get a camera pick on that? All right, so we're gonna do the 3/8. It's a 3/8 right there. We're just going to get that taken care of real quick here, just so I can get that out of the way. Actually, 3/8, not 5/16. Now that's just for the muffler. Get that bolt out, and then just make sure you have some kind of a dish you can put all your nuts and bolts in. All right, so we're going to go around to the front here. Since these guys here, they weren't quite all the way off. Take these guys all the way out here. All right, you gotta take this choke knob off, and the plastic clip tool works perfect. You can just put it right behind there, push out. It should come off. Some of them are easier than others. That one wasn't too bad. Take that one off. We got the front two pieces off here. We got to go around to the other side, and you'll see this. It's a 5/16. Usually you can use a Phillips head on them. That one looks like it's just a hex head. It's right here. Okay, that's got to come off. All right, right there. Not sure if you can see that or not. That's got to come off, and then we have one on the other side in the front near the carburetor. It's right here. I think somebody put this in the wrong spot, because usually the Phillips head ones are on the other side, but this guy's got to come off here. All right, now that's going to take off your shield. And like I said, just don't lose any of your parts. Put them in a dish or something. Now, usually when you take these off, you have to come out over this choke rod. Okay, so you pull that out over the choke rod. Muffler's usually in the way, but you usually have a on and off switch connector that is normally right here, and that will, you can just pull this off like that. Most of them are just slide on, push off. Some of them actually, the old ones had a Phillips head screwdriver. So now we can eliminate this. Cover is done. Now as you can see, this carburetor is pretty green, and that is what happens when gas goes bad. And I'm not sure why the whole carburetor is green, because usually you get up underneath the bowl area. But we're going to take this carburetor off here, and as you can see, the muffler is kind of in my way. I know some people will come around here and they'll take these off and take the whole carburetor off. I tend to leave this on. I don't need to take it off, and I actually, the hard part for me is getting, there's a little bend tab right here. That bend tab for me is a little tricky, and that's why I use this here. And I'm going to get this off. I'm going to actually go off camera here. I'm going to hit this off. And then we basically, this side's already off. This side should be bent too, but it's not. It's already off. Then we're going to take 2 1/2-inch bolts. We already took off the top bolt for the muffler that holds on to the motor here. So this will come right off. That'll allow us to get to this a lot quicker. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I used this and I bent that tab back. So basically you guys just need to have a punch. It's a chisel, you know, or you might have other ways of getting these tabs unbent from the bolts. So got that done. And we're going to use a 1/2-inch, 1/4-inch ratchet on this to take it apart. And I usually just get it started. Actually, you know what? That was bent down. All right. I didn't see that before, so we need to bend that one out of the way. Not sure if I can do this. It usually takes me a long time to get this done. It's a lot longer than normal when I'm trying to do this. So we'll try it and show you how it's a little bit tricky for me, but it looks like that bent down pretty good. All right, just trying to bend it. That helps. That is a anti-vibration thing. These things get so hot that they heat up and expand and contract, and the bolts will actually work their way out. And I've actually seen these bolts get warped from heat, from running too lean on the carburetor, and they get hot, and the valves get hot. So you can take the muffler, comes right off. There actually is no gasket. Some of them had them, some of them did not, but it doesn't, they're loud anyway, but you don't really need a gasket. As long as everything looks clean, you put it back together again, slide it back in there. So this gives us access to the carburetor here, and getting the fuel line off, which is easier in my opinion. I do this when it's all bolted together, because it's easier to get the fuel line off before you unbolt the carburetor versus trying to do it after you unbolt this carburetor and lean it down. So I try to do everything, you know, when it's, try to get all the hoses off. Now you do have to remember, that's why the vice grips come in handy. We're gonna go around to the gas tank right now. You have to cut off the fuel supply. There's a couple different ways. You can drain it. You can take this fuel tank off, which is 2 bolts, and it'll come out. Or you can, this guy here has a fuel shut off. Now we already have it on off for this purpose of, you know, the video, but you can also use a pair of vice grips and crimp them. Now I do notice if this fuel line is extremely hard, you're going to want to replace that, okay? Because that's just dry rotted. Now this one here is in good shape. If we wanted to, we can vice grip it. We don't have to. We have a fuel shut off. As long as that fuel shut off is working, we should be fine. All right, we have around here we have the fuel line here. Now this must have been off already, because this is a hose clamp, 1/4-inch nut driver that I use. Somebody must have had this off before. This is a pretty old machine. Okay, so this This is a hose clamp that must have been, I usually use the, it was just a very small hose clamp that was metal. You can use a pair of pliers and push them off. But this one here, you only have a little bit of room to work here. So I push the hose clamp off as far as I can. I get my plastic tool clip tool here, and I try to get the V into behind the fuel line, and it'll push it off of the barb that's on the carburetor. And it does a heck of a nice job. Yes, you're going to get residual, can't say that word. All right, that's going to be fuel coming out of the fuel line when you drop that down. Now, you do have to make sure that your fuel line in here, I'm not sure if you can see this without any kind of light or not, but if the fuel line's pretty messed up, you want to replace that fuel line. And this guy here he's definitely going to have to replace. We're going to replace the end of that, or sometimes you can snip it off and pull through some more line. There's a whole nother can of worms to try to get this fuel line through here, but you can do it. That could be another day for another video on how to pull that fuel line through. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's tricky. All right, but we got the fuel line off the carburetor. Then there's the primer line. Same thing with the primer line. But the primer line looks, if it looks or feels dry rotted, you want to replace it. Now this can be done just by putting another piece and a little barb and pulling up through this. This is where the primer bulb is here. You can also use this tool here, and pop this out, pull that out, put another piece on, and string it through here to your carburetor. Now his is in pretty decent shape, and I'm gonna try to pull it off. Looks like it's not just gonna pop off. They get stuck on there. Just gotta pry it off of there. And if you mess up the end of it, no big deal. Just snip off the end. You got plenty of line here to snip off. Just get that out of the way. Now this guy here, I'm going to put this in an ultrasonic cleaner. So what I like to do with this is to take this off first. So go back to my tool, which I use to take the front piece. This is a Phillips head screw right here. These can be very, very hard. They use Loctite to keep them on at the factory, and they can be real tight. So if you don't get them off, I'm going to have to use a smaller here. If they don't come off easily, you can strip them. So you really have to push in on these guys. I try to do them by hand first to get them started. All right, so that's coming. This guy here on the inside. All right, so these guys, like I said, this carburetor was a part. The newer ones, actually they don't even make Tecumseh anymore, but the ones that haven't ever been off before, they have Loctite on them, and they're pretty tricky to get off. You just have to make sure you're applying pressure onto it as you're pulling it off. And I take this off because you don't need it on there when you put it in ultrasonic cleaner. That's how I clean all these carburetors. And it makes it easier to take it off while it's connected to the machine. And just put it aside and make sure you do not lose your screws. All right, so now we're down to, we got the fuel line off. This little bracket here can come off in the front. This is an adjustable carburetor, which means that there's an adjuster here with a spring and there's an adjuster underneath it. This is one of the old goodies. This one has it's a needle valve. This is a high-speed jet here, and you can always tell when there's a spring on there, you know that's an adjuster for the fuel. You have one on the bottom, high speed, one on the side right here. It's kind of hard to see, but inside there. And we'll take this off. It's a quarter inch nut drive right here. You can use a 1/4 inch ratchet if you want with the 1/4 inch socket. I'm just going to pull this off real quick. And you can't really mess up how this thing goes back on because it has a little U in it. That shape, that you'll see it right here. This little U right here. This is where you put your screwdriver to adjust the low speed. And the low speed is at idle. And usually you turn them out one turn, and then you kind of go in and out until you find a happy medium. And when it's real cold out, you're going to want to run them a little bit rich. The high speed, same scenario, but you turn that out about 1.5 turns. And then you start, in and out after you get it running. Now this is all when it's up at temperature. All right, so here's the low speed jet right here, and they do have kits. Tecumseh has kits that you can buy. In fact, I should have it down on a piece of paper what we're doing for this one. I can give you the part number for that, and then you can just order that up or go to your local small engine shop and get them. All right, so I'm going to use again my nice adapter here for Phillips. Now this is going to take off the carburetor from the elbow, and I'm just going to take off right here. Now the nut doesn't move. A lot of people put this on the other direction because this nut's stuck here. It's designed that way. So just remember that nut's not going to turn. You just take off this side, and this nut stays stationary. And when you put it back on, that nut's going to have to be flush up against that side right here, and then you screw the Phillips head screw into it. All right, so it just came off. There it is. They have nice little locking washers on them already. They will not come off. If it's original, it has a locking nut with the locking washer. It's not a lock nut. It's actually a regular nut with a locking outside washer on it. Very nice. They pull tight right on the aluminum. Now the inside one is over here. It's a little more tricky to get at, but it's not as tricky with the muffler off. And you have to hold the inside one a lot of times. And I just bring it all the way out, and it should drop. Try to catch it. Now, I did not say one thing before I take this apart. The carburetor has many holes on top, and what I normally do is I'll scratch a mark with, you can use anything, a pick. Some people use markers, but the reason why I scratch a mark on it is because if you scratch a mark where it came out of, it's not going to go away in the solvent tank or the carburetor cleaner tank or the whatever you use to clean your carburetor. Okay, so I put a little mark on there so I know what hole it came out of. And it's pretty important because you'll have the governor messed up a little bit if it won't run right. Alright, so now we're going to just pull it. We're going to tip it because it's like an L on here. You'll see when I take it out. So you tip the carburetor sideways, it pulls right out. You see how it's like a little L? It's called a little Z. And when you put it back on, just make sure you know where your scratch was. Make sure you put it back on, and boom, there it is. It's a little bit hard to see, but I did scratch that. Now I'm going to put a little better scratch into that when I get it on the table. But this is pretty much your carburetor in the off position. And it's pretty ugly inside there. It's pretty green. We're going to take this all apart, put it in ultrasonic cleaner, clean it up. Let me see about the carb kit. So I found the carburetor part is a 632347, but the way I came up with this part number, and this is the whole kit. The whole kit comes with the bottom jet. Okay, it comes with everything you need, needle and seat, all that to rebuild it. Even comes with a instruction manual right there to a degree, as far as getting these things back up and running again. But to get this part number, there's 3 different kits for different size carburetors. You have to get to your model number of your machine. Now this is a 8 horsepower Tecumseh. It's right here on the front of it, 8 horsepower Tecumseh. The model numbers are usually on the left hand side below the throttle. Alright, so this is an HMSK 80. Alright, so the model is right here, HMSK 80. And then you need the spec number, which they don't say spec, but it's right next to it, which is the 155525S. You need that number, and then you can go to Tecumseh online and find a Tecumseh website to look up parts. Once you've put in that model and spec, you'll be able to find the carburetor and then get the carburetor rebuild kit for that particular carburetor. So that's why it's important. I know there's 3 different carburetor kits for adjustable Tecumseh engines. We have bigger engines and smaller engines, so they're all different. So you just have to make sure that you get the right one. For this 8 horsepower though, let's go back to the picture of the kit and I'll just show you one more time. The kit number is a 632347. That's what you're going to need to rebuild this carburetor here. And as you can see, the green stuff coming off of this carburetor right here, that's really, really bad gas. And this carburetor, this snowblower doesn't even run. And that's from gasoline sitting inside this bowl and not being drained or not being run every now and then. And in this area where we live, the snowblowers are only used 1 or 2 months out of the whole season, so they sit, and this is what we do a lot of carburetor repairs on these. So if you like the video, please give me a thumbs up, share it, and also subscribe. Thank you very much.